Welcome to The Pestle, reviewing and breaking down movies to look for insights into the movie-making process. Hosted by Alliteration. Now, let's lower the lights and let loose the show.
Welcome everybody to The Pestle. Today's show is brought to you by The Dark Face of Love. Pick up the new thriller from the late Guinevere Beck. It's the only one she'll be releasing. It's The Dark Face of Love. Perfect. Welcome everybody to The Pestle. I am Wes.
And I am Todd.
And this is a show where filmmakers, artists like to analyze, pick apart films and try to learn something about movies, maybe a little about life, but mostly about movies.
Yeah.
Storytelling.
Every now and then about life.
Now and then we do what we can.
Yeah.
If my voice goes in and out, that would be the result of the flu and laryngitis, and my
Which
voice.
I feel like I'm getting right now.
I wonder if laryngitis can be contagious. I'm assuming not.
I don't know.
if so, it's like on a week and a half delay.
Oh, I mean, I think a lot of things are actually.
True.
Anyway,
my excitement is contagious. I will tell you that.
that was a good segue.
Thanks. You know, it's one of those things because we are filmmakers, and this is everything I love, like movies, and I like to get excited about something. I don't have anything right now. There used to be for several years, there was something for me to not just be excited about. There's things I'm excited to see. Like I want to see 1917. I want to see Tenet. But there's a level of excitement that I had for years over certain projects, like Lost. Before it ended, I would get really excited, about a new show episode dropping. And even more, as much as I was excited about Lost, I was really excited about a new Game of Thrones episode. And that started after the first season. Like the first season I watched and I was like, okay, this is interesting. This is interesting. Then the first season ends and you're like, oh, these guys are doing something. Yeah. And every season after that, every episode after that, I would get a little more anticipation. And same thing with like Star Wars, when the new Star Wars movies started coming out, the Avengers. And it wasn't just excitement, it was almost misery for the expectation and the anticipation. I almost couldn't even enjoy it when I would sit down to watch it because I was just my anxiety and my stress and my nervousness was so high about what I was about to consume that I almost couldn't even focus on what I was consuming. It was just literally on verge of hives. Like I was just so anticipating these things. And
where are we going with this?
I don't have anything. I don't know about you, but there's nothing that I'm that excited about on the horizon. Like there's nothing that I'm looking at and I'm like, man, if I could fast forward through time right now, I would gladly skip through whatever just so I could, watch this movie or this TV show. There's things that like I want to see, like I was saying, but there's nothing that I'm on a level 10, like anxious to see.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if there's anything.
No, I'm excited to see Tenet and Top Gun and, I guess the typical stuff. I guess the stuff I know is coming out, but there's nothing really that's like grabbing me for the summer.
Kind of wrapped up. Like all the things that had spent their time building, this following or working off of this source material. It's all kind of done, and I don't know. I mean, there's shows that I think might eventually get there. Like I really enjoyed His Dark Materials on HBO. I
need to watch that.
I think that's going to go somewhere interesting, but you can't do that in the season. Like you can't get my level 10 out of me in one season. It's going to take, one or two seasons at best, and you better have something to say. But so I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at right now in pop culture. And
I don't really have anything either. Interesting.
And
thanks for bringing me down, man.
I know it really brings me down too. In the worst way. Like,
well, and the other problem is that I just don't trust Hollywood to make the thing that I should be that excited about anymore.
True.
I really don't. I mean, I feel like there are a few things where you look at something like Joker, right? And that was an outlier. That was like nobody expected that. Not even the studio.
Right.
Like they did not even the people that made it. Todd Phillips didn't expect it, But I think that's where the next stuff needs to come from. It's like this, really raw surprise, for lack of a better term. to where maybe you're not going to know that you should be that excited about it until you see it and you're like, oh my God, that was amazing. And then, cause that's the way I felt. And then like now after that, I'm like, there's nothing really that can compare. So I'm just not excited about anything.
Nothing. And I think that's a really good point. Like, I think there is a lot of trust lost for Hollywood, and not just, their motivations, because it's always been the same. It's always been to make money.
Right.
Like
right. Which you have to make money.
You do. This is it's show business, and we all get that. But it's also art. And so much lately has been eschewing art for the sake of money.
Yeah.
Like, let's rehash things that don't need to be rehashed. The whole remake syndrome that we had for a good 15, 20 years. I feel like that's kind of going away a little bit. We're not seeing as many remakes recently as I feel like we had been.
Yep.
And we're getting into some, and I think Marvel has probably been a large part of that, but which is a whole other Scorsese conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a lot of trust lost just because they don't make room for the $40 million budgets like a Joker anymore.
Yeah.
And you have to give artists space to create and to fail and to be able to come back from that and take chances and risks. And they're not interested in that. They're interested in IP, which is such a crappy term because it really does kind of productize art.
Intellectual property. For those listening. Yeah.
Right. And it's Iron Man and, what IP can we take advantage of? What's out there? And it's what novels have a fan base that we could, adapt. And novels are a great place, don't get me wrong, to find, new original sources of material because it's so well thought out, and authors tend to spend much more time living inside these worlds and creating a story. Whereas, so many filmmakers,
well put,
just get a budget and they say, okay,
now what?
We can make something. Let's just make something.
Yeah.
And you forget that, I should also have something I want to say.
Yeah.
Like, if I didn't have to, sit and do all these projects, I could talk through, with you or with, any other artist and say, hey, here's something I really want to say. I don't necessarily know how to say it, but here's something that I'm feeling really deeply and I want to say, and would you help me, say this thing? And I feel like there's thousands and thousands of those kinds of artists laying around, waiting for their opportunity, who have scripts in hand. And yet we're seeing, it's hard to not call, studios out or
directors out,
directors, or even like distribution platforms like a Netflix or a Hulu that I would love to work with. But at the same time, I see some of the quality of the work they're putting out, and I'm like, man, what if you didn't just reach for the nearest script that fit the algorithm, but instead you said, what is it that you believe in, and how can we help you tell the story a little bit better? And that's how you get something like A Marriage Story. Noah Baumbach just delivered an atom bomb on Netflix that they haven't done before.
Yeah.
Like, Netflix has put out some pretty good stuff, but they haven't put out A Marriage Story before. This is something that they've been needing to do. Irishman, like, they found artists that needed a voice, or that had a voice and needed a budget and needed a place to live. Okay. And whenever you do that, when you support the artist, I think you're going to win a lot more. You can swing and hit a lot more home runs, even though sometimes you might get some strikeouts. That's part of the game, is like supporting an artist. Not everything is going to be a masterwork, but whenever you get in bed with them, so to speak, and you're just there to support them and build them up and help them. There's no curation going on right now. There's only how fast can we create stuff, instead of how can we find the best stuff that's speaking to somebody, and that has, a theme and an arc, and those are the things that ultimately speak to us. That's what got me hooked on Game of Thrones. It was so inhabited and lived in, and all these characters, felt real, even though this is a fantasy universe. Same thing with, Avengers and the MCU. Like, as kitschy as it could come across sometime, I still really emotionally connected with these guys because they were also working off of source material from artists and writers who really thought about these characters and said, how does Tony Stark deal with alcoholism? Okay, let's explore that in a fantasy universe. And those are just really human places to come from. And we're just not letting artists go there, or we're not asking them to. Instead, we're just saying, how much money can this thing make? and you got to start on the opposite end. I think if you want to make something that not only is going to stand the test of time and has its own cult following, but also, connects with an audience. That's how you get, it's failing me right now, but there's so many works of art that start off, Donnie Darko starts off as nothing, and then, over 10 years, Shawshank Redemption was that way. Yeah. Like it doesn't get its audience right away, but it grows and becomes something valuable over time. Yeah. Those things are worth millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars now. Shawshank Redemption, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's made so much more money back.
It's literally playing on some channel every single day
right.
of the year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you only judged it by its box office, you might call it a failure.
It might be a good correlation with music, honestly, because, playing devil's advocate, if you put a studio rep in here, they'd probably sit there and say, I love movies. This is why I got into this business, because I love movies and I want to tell stories and I want to make something really great. It's not as easy as you think to just say, let's tell a great story. But at the same time, and in music, it was this way too, back in the 80s or 90s, you had a specific platform, which was CDs or vinyl or tapes, right? And then, Spotify happens and all that stuff. And then everything changes. And all of a sudden it's a singles market, and you have Netflix, and everything changes. And all of a sudden, instead of putting out a episode at a time, you're putting out a season at a time. And so you have to sink a whole lot more money into, telling 8-hour long episodes instead of a single hour a week, So it's, I think that they would have their arguments, but what I would argue back at that is, well, they used to do it. Like they used to say, yes, it's hard to, of course, it's hard to tell a great story in a great way, but it happened. Raging Bull happened. The Godfather happened. Jaws happened. So why can't it happen again? Rocky happened. That was a studio completely taking a chance on a completely unknown actor and writer and director who had never done anything before. And they said, fine, we love the script. We're going to give it to you. We're going to, let's make something really great. And gave a chance. Like, that can happen again. And it's not always like you're completely rolling the dice, if a great script is a great script, and you can have people looking at dailies also that are not just the director, but studio people, just to make sure, like, hey, this is not going to go off the rails because this is a brand new person. Like, you can have things in place to, like, make sure that things don't get out of hand and go the wrong way. It's just, you got to do it. If you really want to make a good movie, if you really want to tell a great story, then you got to go all in. And it's not just, trusting a new director or something. It's more than that. It's, the producer with them. Yeah. And it's the actor.
It's trusting your own taste. Like, if you really did get in this for movies, then you need to either believe that you understand what makes a good movie, or understand that you don't, and just work in the area that you're good at. It's a level of honesty that I think most industry people just don't have with themselves, because everyone wants to say, yeah, I saw the greatness in that, or this was my idea. Everyone wants their fingerprints on something. Very few people want to step back and say, yeah, I saw something great in him and he told a great story.
Definitely. And there's so many people, dude, and all in this industry, there are so many people that all have to have their voice heard, or else they cannot prove that their job is important and needed and necessary. Like that, I'm so true. Swear to God, 100%. like if I'm an executive producer, I better have an opinion on that thing, and it better be fucking unique, because if it's not, then maybe I'm not needed. Or maybe, on the next gig, they're not going to think about me because I didn't have that great thought or that great idea. And in some ways that could push you to have a great idea that nobody had. But in most ways, let's be honest, it's just, you have too many cooks in the kitchen who think they know what the vision is, and they just don't, and the vision would be that of the director, right? Like that's where the buck stops. You could be the writer, you could be executive producer. It does not matter. It is the director who calls all the shots. So if you're not on the same page with that dude, I mean, yeah. Anyway, I want to talk about a couple of movies where like that's the case, where you had the cinematographer and the director and the producer and the actors all on the same page, and that made an amazing movie that made a lot of money, right? But if you even have one of those people who is not on the same page, even remotely, then it just kind of starts falling apart, unraveling a little bit at the edges,
Yeah, it's. I've made a comparison before that it's an orchestra. We all have to be playing, like I said, on the same page and playing harmonies that play with each other. Because if you suddenly have a drummer who wants to have a solo in the middle of your, trumpet solo, then it's gonna get weird, man.
Yeah, man.
Nice.
That's a good little tangent there.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah.
It's just been something that I've been chewing on as Star Wars wrapped up its latest trilogy. We're not going to dive into that, of course, but
right.
It just made me realize, man, and I wasn't level 10 excited for the Rise of Skywalker, but I was still wanting to see it and see how they wrapped up the story. There's just nothing on the horizon now, and I'm like, man, what's it going to be? What's going to get me? Maybe we're just going to have to make it. I don't know, but something's got to be out there that is getting me really jonesing for that next hit.
There's got to be something coming.
It's got to be something.
Yeah. Jeez. Well, what are we doing today?
Pretty excited. This was your pick.
It was
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Yes, sir. And I know it's a little late. It's after Christmas. However, I don't even care. I mean, it had to be because of sickness and traveling and all that stuff. But this is my favorite Christmas movie.
That's awesome.
For sure. Yeah. So what are we going to talk about?
We'll talk about a few things. Editing a little bit, physical comedy, and other such stuff and things and stuff.
Yeah. How about story too? We'll talk about story.
Okay.
I have a few things.
Cool.
So quick synopsis. The Griswold family's plans for a big family Christmas predictably turn into a big disaster. Directed by Jeremiah Chechik. Written by John Hughes. Cinematography by Elliot Davis. Featuring Chevy Chase as Clark Griswold. Beverly D'Angelo as Ellen. Juliette Lewis as Audrey. Johnny Galecki as Rusty, and Randy Quaid as Cousin Eddie.
I totally botched.
I butchered all of those names.
I butchered the cinematography.
Yeah, there you go. Cinematography by Thomas E. Ackerman.
Thank you.
Mark? Clark. That's Bill, sir.
Are you the one who was working on that non-nutritive cereal varnish?
Yes, sir.
I've got to give a speech to a trade group. I'd like to mention it. Write up a brief summary and have it to me by the end of the day.
My pleasure.
Layman's terms, none of that inside bullshit jargon that nobody understands.
Yes, sir. Oh, Mrs. Shirley, we got your Christmas card the other day, and my family and I are very flattered that you remembered us. Corporate cards.
Don't forget that report, Bill.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Kiss my ass. Kiss his ass. Kiss your ass. Happy Hanukkah.
That wasn't the clip I meant to play, but then I was like, oh, I do want to hear him say that.
It's still good. What's the clip you wanted to play?
It was much quicker.
What are you looking at?
Oh, the silent majesty of a winter's morn, the clean, cool chill of the holiday air, and an asshole in his bathrobe emptying a chemical toilet into my sewer.
Shitter was full!
Ah, yeah. You checked our shitters, honey?
Clark, please. He doesn't know any better.
You ought to know it's illegal. It's a storm sewer. If it fills with gas, I pity the person who lights a match within 10 yards of it.
Merry Christmas! Dinner was full!
Yeah, so
You literally could have started it at any point in this movie and stopped it, and it would have been a good clip.
true.
There's really not a bad moment in this movie.
What makes this your favorite holiday movie?
Because there's really not a bad moment in this movie. I mean, I'm laughing the whole time. I mean, Randy Quaid with Chevy Chase is just brilliant. It's so good. And there's just so many great one-liners that I mean, I could go on for days, right? But they're really creative on all the bad stuff that goes on. And some of it everybody experiences, you know, like when you're trying to put up lights in your house or something or whatever, and you forget to check them all and you put them up and all of a sudden they're not on and you got to go through and find the bulb or whatever, that kind of stuff. But then there's also the crazy stuff that would probably never happen, which is like a squirrel in the tree, or being locked in your attic and then, you know, watching movies and then falling through the thing. Yeah, like there's a lot of stuff that actually wouldn't happen, but it's funny because it's Chevy Chase, and he's very like I'm gonna give my family the best Christmas ever. God damn it, you know, just like so determined, and the world is completely against him. And I think that a lot of us, I know myself especially, feel that way throughout the holidays, where you just want it to be great, right? And so you just try really hard to make it great, but it doesn't always happen that way, right? And then family comes into the mix, and you know, with my wife and I, the first Christmas we had together, we went to 7 different Christmases. Whoa. It was ridiculous, and we'll never do that again. But you know, it was a lot of family, right? And it was family that we don't talk to anymore for random reasons. And yeah. And there's just so many great one-liners in there, and just great moments of like facial acting that Chevy Chase is so good at doing. Like his surprise look is amazing. I mean, he can. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just a big Chevy Chase fan anyway. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Is there? Does this remind you of your own Christmases growing up at all? Like, is there any? Oh, I can see my dad being.
No, but I like
Clark.
I like movies where the main character, like funny movies where the main character just like nothing goes right. Like, sorry to name another movie, but like Money Pit. I pee myself laughing at everything that happens in that movie, because Tom Hanks is brilliant in that film and he's so freaking hilarious. And Chevy has the same kind of attitude, and they all have this moment where they snap, right? His moment was when the tree goes up, right? And he has to get another tree. So he goes and saws one down out front and brings it in the house. And then he's upstairs, and he's you know, looking in the mirror in the bathroom. His wife is like trying to calm him down. He's like, I'm calm. Everything's great. He walks out and shakes the little newel post, and it's shaky. And so he saws it off. He's like, fix the newel post. Just like, it's like so matter of fact, but you can tell he's completely snapped, right? And there's nothing else that can, you know, destroy him. Obviously it's not true.
Right.
Completely goes crazy after that. But yeah, I just love, you know, that nothing goes right, which is pretty much the story of anything National Lampoon's, right?
True. Very true. I love the crazy long rant he gets off about his boss.
Oh,
like that.
And not one single curse word.
Yeah.
Right?
It was really impressive.
It was brilliant.
Yeah. I didn't grow up with this. This might be the first time I've watched it in its entirety.
Oh, wow.
I know I've seen bits and pieces here and there over the years, and it's probably something that played on, you know, my family's TV. And I would sit down for 15, 20 minutes and I'd get up. So this is the first time I've ever seen it all. Like, I don't remember the toboggan scene at all, where he's sledding.
You don't remember that? Oh man.
That was my first time seeing that. And I wouldn't say I laughed a ton. I think part of the nostalgia was not there for me.
Yeah.
Even though I love Chevy Chase too. Like Three Amigos is one of my favorite films of all time.
Yeah.
And Fletch Lives, like just fantastic. But for whatever reason, I never watched the National Lampoon movies a lot as a kid. I have no idea why we owned a lot of maybe or maybe not VHS tapes of compiled curation.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, you're a thief.
yeah.
Get it.
It wasn't me.
No, not you.
I just partook.
Yeah, right.
I ate the bread. I didn't steal the bread. And so, yeah, I don't know what that was. That's not to say I didn't laugh in this. Like the lights finally turning on. That scene got me really good because, yeah. And then everything, and his neighbors obviously get flooded.
Yeah.
But what made me really laugh was the wide shot of the city and their tree, and you can see all the city going out, blacking out, and then
their meters.
Yeah, they cut to the meter. It's just going nuts.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Like that really, I got in stitches on that.
Yeah.
And there was some really great. And to your point, I mean, his comedy style is so good. Like, and that was one of the things I want kind of touch on is physical comedy is so great here. And physical comedy can be defined in, I guess in a number of ways. It can be literal physical stuff where, him playing around on the ladder, right? He falls over on the tree, then he pushes himself back up to the roof. That's technically physical comedy. There's, getting hit and falling down, and the reaction shots, like when Rusty sneaks up on him in the, as he's lightly hitting on this chick in the,
oh yeah.
In the store.
Oh, hi, Russ.
Russ. Yeah. Like that reaction shot of that's a physical comedy thing. Like these very expressive gestures are a part of physical comedy, and it can actually be really tiring. Just as tiring sometimes, I think, as an emotional scene where you have to be crying or upset or yelling at somebody. These physical gesturing can be just as exhausting and tiring because so much energy goes into that, and you feel like voiceover in a cartoon. It may sound very simple, but because you're not on screen and people can't see your face and your eyes and your gesturing. Whenever you're doing voiceover, you're closer to like an 8 or 9 or even a 10, and your volume and your overacting just to get all that emotion and activity through your voice. Whereas on screen you might be at a 5 or a 6. Like all that expressiveness really takes a toll on you, on your energy, and you have to think he's not doing that once and then he's on to the next scene. Like he might do that 5, 10, 15 times, depending on how they're going to shoot. And it seems like in this film, they held on Chevy Chase more than on other characters. And granted, he's the main character, so we do want to see how he's responding to certain things. But his whole family, like the nuclear family, are all core players here. Rusty and Juliette Lewis is Audrey and Ellen, like they're all core players, but there's times whenever they're talking and we're still looking at Chevy, and I think it's partly not just because he's the main the main character, but also because he's like the biggest star name, and you kind of want to be watching him more than everyone else.
Yeah.
The more he's on screen, probably the funnier it's going to be, because like you said, a look from him can like just lay you out.
Well, and they also replace the others in the other movies.
Do they really?
Yeah.
I didn't
Rusty's
know that.
different in almost every single movie.
Is he really?
Rusty and Audrey. And Ellen. I mean, they're all different.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Go watch, what is it?
Not European Vacation, but the other one where they go to...
Just the road trip one.
Yeah.
What is that?
Because that's the one I watched the most as a kid.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't...
Different Rusty. Yeah.
So,
yeah. And Audrey. Which I think is great, right? It's just further solidifies that Chevy's the main...
He is the guy.
I know, he's the guy.
And the other thing, in the opening when they're hunting down the tree and they have those, I don't know, the road rage kind of incident, there's this edit that I really enjoyed in there because you don't normally see this from any movie, let alone a comedy. And it's this really quick edit whenever he hits the brakes and we see the kid slam and then whenever he hits the gas, we see them slam back. And those edits are so lightning fast, you almost wouldn't see them. Most of the time, movies give you like an extra half second before the brake slam. They do a shot of the brakes being pressed.
Good point. Yeah.
And then they cut to the kids like waiting for the brakes to be pressed, and then they slam. And it's all granted to kind of give you
a second to realize.
Yeah, to let it all register and, oh, this is all happening. But they didn't do that. Like, they cut straight to they're slamming their heads, and they're in and out in probably less than 12 frames. Like, it's lightning fast, and I love that because that's my style of editing.
Yeah, right.
I like very tight, quick, and you have to pay attention. And it also feels natural. Like, you're seeing everything happening in real time instead of everything being postured for the camera. Personally, I usually really, really hate that stuff as a director anyway. And so them doing that was really cool. Also really loved whenever he falls through the attic. I love that they don't explain the joke. Like, you have to understand, they expect the audiences to get that he's standing on top of insulation.
Yeah.
And that's only being held up by like drywall because that's how houses work. And that's how attics work. Like, if you're not standing on one of the beams, the support studs, then you're on thin ice. And so they don't explain that. They just, expect you to know it. And the joke plays flawlessly. Like, and he slams into the top bunk.
Warms himself.
Like, that killed me too. Cause it was so unexpected. Well, it's not totally unexpected in the sense that they show you his feet. You're just like, oh, what's going to happen here? And that they did it. And I didn't expect there to be a bunk. So that was like a great little surprise.
So I want to say, like, I don't know why I used to like this. I know why I like it now. Because I'm a dad and I'm a husband, and I'm one of the people where it's my job to like make a good Christmas or whatever. But before, I wasn't any of those things, but I still thought it was hilarious. But now I totally get it, and I get where, like, I don't see my dad as Clark, but I totally get I do see my dad in what the character attempts to try to do, right?
His struggle of creating the best Christmas.
And he plays the same character in every single one of these movies. He just wants to give his family the very best of whatever the hell it is that they're doing. In this case, it's Christmas. So that includes crazy lights, that includes great food, that includes, a tree, presents, a pool, all these, all these things.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I really noticed was that they hurt animals without ever showing it, which is the way you got to do it.
Oh yeah, sure.
Like, and the part that impressed me though is this is the 80s, when I guarantee you could go in the same year and find a dozen other movies, like, not being afraid to like hurt an animal on screen. But for comedy purposes in this film, they understood we can't really hurt a cat.
Yeah.
So we're going to put it in a box. You're not going to see it. You're just going to hear it. And that makes it funny because you're one level removed. You don't see an actual cat suffering. And the way he's hamming it up, you also understand there's not really a cat in that box.
Yeah.
He's just being silly. And the cat, like, exploding under the chair. Yeah. And then you just see the outline underneath. Yeah. Like, you never actually see like a cat corpse. That probably would have been gross. I'm sure they would have found a way to make it funny. Like, whether you overdo it, right? You just exaggerate, and through the exaggeration it becomes funny because you're disconnecting from reality, and that allows you to not feel like you're partaking in any cruelty on any level. Like, same thing with the dog choking under the table. Like, you're only hearing him make these really weird noises.
Yeah.
And then he makes it through.
It's yakking bone. Yeah, what one of the things that for me makes this movie so stinking great, like, not just a great comedy but a great movie, is that nothing is kind of like left out of the loop. So all the loops are closed. So let me give you an example. So the example of the cat, right? Mm-hmm. Frying underneath the chair. Well, in most movies the chair would just be gone. They would get rid of the chair. But you see a scene with Clark and Cousin Eddie taking the chair out to the corner to throw it away. And Eddie's saying, I could reupholster this. It's still a good quality item, like talking about the chair that they're throwing away. right?
Yeah.
Eddie emptying his waste into the sewer, and then later on,
Grandpa or whatever.
whatever, throwing the match. The neighbors are throughout the entire movie. There's this build up until he's going to go over and punch him or something, and or she's going to go over and punch him, and his growth of anger, right? The boss, the scene, we're introduced to the boss like pretty much right at the beginning. We find out he wants to put a pool in, and it's dependent upon his bonus. And then we have the boss at the end, finally, when they drag the boss to his house, right? And his boss finally gives him his bonus or whatever. The dog, I mean, we meet the dog halfway through the movie, right? But the dog plays an important part of completely destroying the house. And even when they go and they're shopping, and Clark is saying to Eddie, I want to give you guys a good Christmas or whatever, they're shopping for dog food, right?
Right.
Like Eddie's throwing like pounds, like 7 bags of dog food on the damn thing, right? On the cart. So it's the lights. The lights are like half the movie. The Christmas lights in the house are half the movie. The tree is half the movie. I mean, they don't touch on anything. They they keep going back to everything. There's a reason why everyone is in there. The little girl, Eddie's little girl, right? Mm-hmm. The fact that they're poor, they hammer that shit home whenever he's, staring out the window that night, and she comes up and talks about Santa Claus and that she doesn't really get any presents or whatever.
That she's just happy to not have to put on a jacket to use the bathroom.
Right. Yes, exactly. So they give you even moments of like emotion, but they just, as a movie, right? You look at the Story Clock Notebook, you look at the way the story is structured. It's if you see something at the beginning, you're also going to see it halfway through, and you're also going to see it at the end. If you see it a third of the way in, you're also going to see it 2/3 of the way in. They keep going back to everything to kind of either tie it up or reintroduce it as hey, you remember this? Well, it's going to come back, or something.
That's such a great point. Because watching this, I was like, oh, okay, they're not going heavy on story, and to some degree, I mean, they didn't, in the sense that there's not this crazy plot line. Like, to your point, he's trying to make the best Christmas ever, and there's all these elements that go into it. Like you said, the tree, the lights, the gifts, the family, and his Christmas bonus, being able to pay for so much more. The biggest surprise for his family that he could imagine, which is the pool.
Yeah.
And from there, it's all just kind of going back to those same things. And even that line that you mentioned a second ago, I thought was a really interesting, like on a meta conversation. Whenever they're hauling it out, and you said, "Hey, I could still reupholster this thing," like to the exact point that you were making, they didn't abandon the chair after it just got used and burnt up. They reused it.
Yes.
And in that same way, he's talking about we can still get some life out of this chair, which is exactly what they're doing in that scene, is getting a little more life out of that chair.
Exactly.
And there was another joke in there. We can get it.
Yes. And reintroducing the sewer at the same time. You smell that? Yeah.
It's really efficient. It's only a 97-minute movie, but it's really efficient.
They hit it home.
Yeah, they do. And it's another thing from the 80s. They're not afraid of like time and space and to let a scene really play out. I mean, the opening where they're tree hunting probably takes a good 10 or 15 minutes before you finally get to their house even. And they're milking that for all it's worth. But they immediately cut to the house and let's get straight to the result of all of our fruit, all our labor.
Yeah.
And of course, the tree
explodes.
Yeah, it's too big.
Yeah, right. Right. So it hits all the points of holiday with the dinner and the family that you didn't expect to come over, and the family didn't want to come over, everything going wrong, and then gives you a little bit extra of just a little crazy extreme stuff, but story wise I felt like they kind of like hit all the points, and they kept coming back to them too. So
it's actually really smart, efficient, and thought through, writing.
Yeah,
and that's John Hughes. He's the writer of the 80s, I would say.
Definitely. And my son loves this movie.
Does he?
Simon loves this movie. He laughs his ass off every time we watch it. Every time. We watched it twice this year, and he would laugh. He would laugh every time that Clark gets hurt or something funny happens. If he falls or something, he just loses his mind. Loves it. So
it was interesting seeing Julia Louis Dreyfus.
Oh yeah, right.
Playing not Elaine.
Yeah,
that was hard to get
I
my
still
head
think
around.
she was Elaine.
Yeah, it was like before she moved back to the city.
Yeah, exactly. It's the floral wit, Todd.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I got.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, I give it a 10 as a movie and as a comedy and as a Christmas movie. It's my favorite. If not one of my favorites, definitely if not my favorite, one of my favorites.
Nice.
I'd say, yeah.
Nice. I'm not gonna rate it. I don't think it's fair. Like it's a funny movie. I love Chevy Chase.
You can rate it.
I mean, for me, it's just probably a 3 out of 5. Like,
okay.
It's something that I could sit and watch. If my family did so much more of like for the holidays, Wizard of Oz and Christmas Story.
Oh yeah.
Like, those were just on a loop, and I hate both of them very much.
I really don't like Christmas Story either.
I'm
so burned out on that movie.
Yeah, man.
Which is funny because I cannot get burned out on this movie. I've seen this movie probably 30 times, and I laugh still every time I watch it. But that movie, just is like, I don't know, it's old.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Nice. So, what are you going to recommend this week?
Do you know?
You're
going to guess it.
I'm going to guess The Great Outdoors.
No.
Ooh, what do you got?
The Witcher.
Ooh.
Which is it has nothing to do with, obviously,
right,
with Christmas or anything. Yeah, Netflix, The Witcher.
Nice.
I don't want to talk about why.
Very interesting. Have you finished it?
I have.
Interesting. We're going to talk about this off air.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
I have not actually figured out I was going to recommend Haunting of Hill House, but Scott already recommended that last week.
We can't do that.
We can't do that. So I'm going to do You. I'm pretty sure we have not.
You're going to recommend me? Me?
The Netflix series called You.
Okay.
Called Todd. No. It's interesting. They just dropped the second season, so that's why it's fresh on my mind.
Oh, okay.
But it's interesting seeing Penn Badgley, if you know him from, I think, Gossip Girl, playing this creep. And it's a really phenomenal deconstruction of the nice guy.
Okay.
It's, I think, brilliant, and it will break me out in hives for a completely different reason than we talked about in the show opening. Like, it makes me that nervous, and it's a train wreck, and you can't look away.
Oh, wow.
Check it out, because you will hate yourself.
Wow.
You're welcome. Couldn't find a short film for a short spotlight. I went through like 15 or 16 films, and nothing was just quite clicking. And so instead of that, what
about Threads?
Yeah, we will.
Well, unless you had something.
Nope. I was literally going to jump to the next thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I will put our short film up there, Threads. It's music by Kiona, directed by me and Andrew Barrera.
Yeah.
Andrew
Barrera.
And written by the four of us, me, Todd, Scott, and Andrew.
Yeah.
And check it out. It's
amazing.
It actually is. I'm so proud of that
part
thing.
of it, and it was amazing.
So y'all check it out.
Still, when I work with the guys from that crew on other shoots and stuff, they're still tell me like, dude, that was like the best shoot I've ever been on.
Are you serious?
Seriously.
Oh man.
They were like it was amazing because nobody was there because they wanted to make a bunch of money. They wanted to make something really cool. And so they all had like this vision in mind, and everything went off like pretty much without a hitch. And it was, it's a 14-minute short, or
3
film
days. Yeah.
in 3 days. And everyone was just on it. Right. And they loved it.
And you might think, okay, a 14-minute film isn't too bad to shoot in 3 days. But you have to understand, there's so many. These are music videos. It's a short film, a short story told over music videos, and there's so many more locations and coverage that you have to get. This isn't, we're going to shoot a 5-minute talking scene in one room, and now we've done 5 pages, and now we just have 9 pages left to go. We can get another 5, this evening on that other 5-minute talking scene. Like, it's not that.
Yeah. We have one camera. So it's not like we can have one camera shooting over here and another camera shooting over there or that location. It's like, no, we have 12 locations and we have to hit them all in 3 days.
Yep.
Okay.
Just worked our shot list and know your story, man.
Yeah.
And so, check that out. I'll embed it in the show notes. And I wanted to give a couple shout outs. Junie, thank you. I don't know if you knew this, Todd, but we have a following in Norway.
I have heard.
It's kind of impressive.
Yeah,
we're like mildew. We're just kind of spreading around the globe.
Is that what? Yeah, I guess we could.
We're the mildew of the podcast world. Junie, thank you so much.
Thank you, Junie.
Your email was actually really damn cool, and I'm excited. She asked for us to do Mindhunter.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited to do. It's
absolutely
one we probably would have done eventually because we enjoy it, and you've recommended it at one point.
Which season? Any season?
I'm just assuming both seasons.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen them both. So
I was trying to figure out what. Oh no, we haven't recommended. I thought you recommended this, but maybe not. Maybe you just recommended it to me. And so we'll definitely get to that. Not this next week, but the week after. And keep recommending us to your friends, Junie. It's appreciated.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the only way we really grow, to be honest. Like, I've tried to do so many marketing efforts, and I'm sure we've picked up a listener here and there from that. Like, I'll post on Reddit and to Twitter, and I know my brothers run like paid advertising on Facebook, and I don't know how many we've picked up through all that, but I feel like it's mostly through referrals and people saying, hey, check out this show. I think you might, hey, they did your favorite movie. Go listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of thing that happens. And the other cool thing that happened a month or so ago, whenever, we found out Hannah was around, like, she did this really cool thing that I'd never even considered before. On her Instagram story, she posted about, here's my favorite 3 Pestle episodes.
Cool.
Which is cool. Something I'd never even thought about listeners having. And for her, it was like La La Land, Black Swan, and I forgot the third. But I was like, oh, that's really cool. That's
impressive that someone's listened to 3 of them.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And so, it's just really cool that, people listen and recommend us. And I mean, don't feel super obligated, but if there's, a movie that, if someone likes, say, hey, just IM it to them and say, hey, check out this episode. They might have some fun things for you to hate or love or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I also wanted to give shout out to Izzy. He's always great. He sends thoughtful emails and posts really great comments on the boards. But he also did this really cool thing a few weeks ago where he talked about the movies that he saw this year because of us that he otherwise said he probably wouldn't have seen. And he posted all the I think it was 24 of them, maybe 12 to 24, somewhere in there. And he posted screenshots or the titles on the Facebook page. And for several of them, he wrote up his own synopsis. I'm pretty sure they were spoiler-free synopses that kind of tied in like the show a little bit, but it was just kind of an alternate plot synopsis of the films. And I was like, oh, that's cool. This is pretty cool.
And the cool thing is like someone like him, he's not gonna just regurgitate what we say.
Yeah.
He has his own opinion.
Yeah.
I've noticed that, and I love that.
Yeah.
Man. Like, we don't do this because we want other people to have the same opinion as us. Like, we don't even agree sometimes. I mean, a lot of times we do, let's be honest. But we don't even agree sometimes. And that's cool, man. That somebody, this wasn't your favorite movie, favorite Christmas movie. It is mine, right? That's totally cool. And I love hearing, why is that not? Why is it? It's just, so like that kind of conversation can only make things better, right? Can only make the way that movies are made or movies are consumed a better experience, right?
Heck yeah.
So good on you.
Appreciate you, man.
That's awesome.
So stay tuned for next week. We're actually going to be doing something different.
Yeah. What is this, man?
Is
this are we finally doing this?
Yeah, we're finally going to do it.
Okay.
This is a year in the making. This is a special edition. We're not going to be discussing a movie. Instead, we're going to be discussing the 3 rules of fat loss.
Do we need an explanation yet? Or are we just
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, so I dropped like 45 pounds last year over the course of 30 weeks. And so I did that following these 3 rules that I'll discuss, in the next week's podcast. But it was hard. I mean, it took a lot of time, but I really just wanted to make a point that the way people discuss and look at losing weight is usually wrong, and it's usually ill-motivated.
Yeah.
I feel like the industry has a bent towards just self-propelling itself instead of trying to help people actually reach their goals. We're trying to sell a magazine, so we need to come up with a new way to build bigger arms and have a flatter tummy. I'm like, it's not that hard. And so I didn't do any cardio.
Yeah, that was a specific thing you wanted to say, like no cardio. And I'm sure there were probably times where you wanted to. Maybe you wanted to go for a run, or you wanted to jump on a elliptical or something. I don't know. Probably not, or whatever. But
towards the end, because for reasons I'm sure we'll dive into, or maybe not. I don't know. Next week is going to be a really weird episode and fun, because I'm going to have just tons and tons of information. I'm not just going to say stuff to say it. I would say the majority of what I'm going to say is also backed by like research and stuff that I can link you to kind of prove that there's some underlying, even if, and the times that I'm going off board, I'll certainly say that. Yeah. But yeah, there were times when as I went from 217 pounds down to my final weigh-in was at like 172 on the before and after.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Those pictures of before and after.
We almost weighed the same.
It was crazy.
Crazy. And I'm 6 foot and you're 6'4".
Yeah. And so towards the end, my rate of weight loss had, plateaued. Well, not plateaued, but had slowed. Towards the beginning, I was doing like 1.8 to 2 pounds a week. And then towards the end, I was down to like 1.2 to 1.3 pounds a week. And you want it to go faster. And so the temptation is to do cardio, because you need to burn more calories. And so I was really tempted to like, I just want to get this over with. Let me just, do a couple of hours of cardio a week. But I was like, nope, I'm proving a point here. Yeah. I'm not going to do cardio, because you don't actually have to do cardio to lose weight.
Yeah, agreed.
It's about something else completely.
And I'm a cardio guy.
You are a cardio guy.
And I agree with you 100%.
That's telling.
and I will say, and we'll talk about this next week, but I've learned this myself from you.
Oh, wow.
Years ago when we first started working out.
Yeah.
And you made a suggestion to me, and I was like, all right, I'll try it. And it was amazing.
Like within a month.
Fell off me. Yeah. It was amazing. Anyway, so stay tuned to next week for that. That's going to be fun.
I'm excited. I
am too. This is a big deal.
Yeah, big deal. Don't forget, subscribe.
Yep.
Subscribe, review us on iTunes, leave us a note. If there's a movie you want us to cover, don't be afraid to comment or send us an email. info@thepestlepodcast.com. If that's better for you. Some people are probably a little antsy about publicly posting. And so for me, like, I'm more of a lurker on message boards. I just read what other people write, and I almost never comment. So I get it if there are those of you out there that don't want to comment, but it's a judgment-free zone. I'm never going to be the person who's like, oh, you said that, you're an idiot. Like, that's not in my nature. Right. even if I 1000% disagree with whatever, that's just not me. Yeah. And so don't be afraid to comment and suggest something, or throw an idea out. There's usually some merit to it. No stupid questions. But if you want to do any of that, you can go to thepestlepodcast.com/National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation and leave a comment there.
Awesome. And we'll leave you with a quote of the day from Chevy Chase. What's funny is funny. The same thing that made you laugh 100 years ago makes you laugh now. It's funny because my wife and I are watching Comedians in Cars getting coffee, and Seinfeld says the same quote.
Really?
Like, yeah. He's like, funny is funny, man. It just is, right? If it was funny before, it's funny now. It just, yeah.
And that struck me so well, because I've never really thought about that in terms of comedy. Like, we all realize that in terms of drama. Like, there's a reason 500 years later, we're still performing Shakespeare, and there's these universal truths that are happening. But And, same thing with Plato, that, 2,500 years ago. For thousands of years, we haven't really changed as much as we think we have. Technology's changed, but human nature and the universal truths are all the same. And within that is humor, is the things we laugh at.
Yeah.
And there's still layers to that. There's the, he tripped and fell. Ha ha ha.
Right.
There's that simple base layer, but there's also the deeper layer stuff of, there's this guy who nothing's going to go right for him. So there's a hilarity in that too. Oh, Hamlet, you moron.
Yeah, exactly. Just another version.
Yeah.
Right.
I think so. And so, that's just something I'd never thought about. And I think, what's universally true 100 years ago is probably going to be universally true today.
Yeah. Yeah. So they don't have to remake the wheel necessarily to be funny.
You really don't.
And a lot of times, like we'll watch, my wife and I will watch comedians and stuff online, and they tell the same jokes just in a different way or in their own unique way.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that makes them different. It's not, most comedians who are married or have families, they tell jokes about their spouses and about their kids, right?
Yep.
It's always about their spouses and it's always about their kids. And the only thing different is their own specific, unique interaction with them in that. What?
So a year and a half ago, I was needing books to read and I was going around to people, and your wife handed me 50 books because she has her own personal, library.
Arsenal.
And one of those books was The Importance of Being Earnest.
Oh, yeah, right.
By Oscar Wilde. It's a play. And I just wasn't sure what year it came out because I read it and loved it and was laughing. I was literally laughing at this play. And I wasn't sure, when Oscar Wilde was around. And this is the surprising part, was the first performance of this play was in 1895.
Wow.
Valentine's Day, 1895.
120 years ago.
What the hell, man?
And you're still laughing at it.
Still laughing at it.
That's crazy.
And it's so weird and silly.
100 years ago. What made you laugh 100 years ago makes you laugh
now.
Wow.
That just blew my mind. I thought it was going to be from the 1920s or something, but I had no idea.
You just looked that up just now?
Just to see.
Because you thought about it?
Yeah. God.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
well,
there you go.
There you go, Chevy. You're right. Yeah. Well, it's been a lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoyed talking about Christmas Vacation. I really did. I've been looking forward to this for a while. So thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Can't wait until next week, man. I'm so proud of you for what you did. I was proud of you during, even though I made fun of you sometimes, by eating cookies in front of you and then going for a long run. But I'm very proud of you, and I cannot wait to talk about everything next week.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Until next week, I'm Todd.
I'm Wes.
Go watch the movie.